I'm live. Can you hear me now? There you can. Okay. District of Clear call to order this District of Clearwater regular council meeting for Tuesday, April 15th, 2025 at 2 p.m. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are fortunate to be gathering together on the unceded territory of the Simpcw people who have been caretakers of this land since time immemorial. Are there any late items that anyone would like to add to the agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by Councillor Bratton. All those in favor. Are there any declarations of known conflict of interest or pecuniary interest that anybody on council would like to declare? Seeing none, I do note that the TNRD director, Yusuf Zhao, is here today. Would you like to say anything?
Oh, yes, I would.
Oh, well, there you go. Come on down. And I believe that mic is probably ready to go.
Yes. Thank you, Your Worship. I came for the dog part. No, just kidding. So just sharing some updates on TNRD initiatives and, cross, boundary matters. Parks and Trail Strategy, the draft has been released on the TNRD website. I'm not sure if everybody has had a chance to take a look, but it's been publicized by our communications team at TNRD. There was a public survey looking for response to the draft, which closed yesterday. So we look forward to having that strategy completed this year, which would definitely, affect municipal members as well as electoral areas. River Road update. There is no update on my end. The last communication that I shared from the ministry was that they will keep us updated. And I understand the area manager has gone on holiday, so we'll leave him on his merry holiday before chasing up. There is a boundaries and governance review at the TNRD. It's basically to review the way that the TNRD board is made up and also the geographical boundaries. It was brought up by a few City of Kamloops councillors at the beginning of our term, and now the committee is in full swing, and I believe Mayor Blackwell is part of that committee. So yeah, we'll definitely have some impacts should we choose to go forward. We also had an internal survey, which closed again also yesterday, seeking the Board of 27's input, whether or not we feel more staff time is warranted to look at that. Updates on the grant writer position. So the TNRD was brought up staff proposed initiative to hire a part-time grant writer to help TNRD communities in seeking grants. So I am thankful to a lot of local nonprofits for their letters of supports, which will help the TNRD gain grants from ETSI-BC for this role. And so thank you, Mr. Mayor, for you and your team for the tour of the Sportsplex Theatre Day, and also sharing the asset management plans and HR plans as well. It allows me to go back to Area A communities, which share the usage of the Sportsplex, and let them know what's in the future. And speaking of which, there will be 5 community meetings for Area A that I'm holding in May. I will share those dates with Mayor and Council at probably closer to the end of this month. I know a lot of you are on or are involved in other nonprofits and organizations in the area. If you would like to come to the community meetings in Birch Island and our 5 Area A communities, I would be more than happy to connect and coordinate so that more of a cross-boundary volunteer base. Yeah. And then updates on MOTT, Ministry of Transport and Transit. I'm glad that they've taken some action on some of the low-hanging fruits that Mayor Blackwell, myself, and a few other North Thompson electeds had brought up with the minister during a call about 2 months ago now. And such as brushing in the upper Clearwater corridor, and also speed or signages in Lewis Creek. And on that note, we continue to have dialogues with local managers for opportunities on inputs, such as the fish trap signages, which were unfortunately stolen and needs to be replaced. If any members of council and mayor, I've been connecting with Mayor Blackwell on that to give some inputs. And thank you for taking on the dog park to be discussed today. Looking forward to hearing that discussion, and congratulations on the MOU with Sim First Nation. Thanks.
And thank you. Thank you for your comments. It'll probably relieve the pressure on the Birch Island Dog Park. Sorry, couldn't help it. Thank you for your presentation and comments. There is adoption of the minutes of the regular council meetings from April 1st. Any errors or omissions? If not, can I get a mover and a seconder on that? Councillor Bratton and Councillor Herring. All those in favor, and that passes. Nothing under 9, 10, 11, 12. Moving on to Mayor's Report. Council has this on table for you. April 3rd, I attended a Climate Caucus Affordable Energy for All Zoom session. A lot of the focus was on how to reduce energy loss in your home, but also options like solar. Grants are available, and I note that there are several people in our town that are actually doing that process right now. And I've been thinking about it for a while. So it's a really interesting topic that you could actually, instead of investing in new things, just fixing your old things in your house will actually get you the biggest bang for your dollar. On April 10th, I participated in a Minister Dialogue Zoom with Waterland and Resource Minister Randy Neal. Last Friday the 11th was a community forest in Chuchua. Fantastic day, learned a lot. Conversations on highway safety, and working together, and some really good educational stuff. Learned a lot about language and territorial acknowledgements. A lot of work for us to all do on that, and a really fascinating presentation on the First Nations environmental assessment process specific to SIMP. And the person that did that presentation definitely knew their stuff, so it was really interesting. At that event, both Barrier and Clearwater signed their new memorandums of understanding with SIMP. They are the formalization of a lot of excellent working relationship. Myself, Cookpee, George Lampro, former Mayor Stamer, and the mayors of Valemont and McBride have gone as a group to the province on multiple issues. And when we come in as a group, that's one thing, but we come in with a member of the local First Nations to advocate for things such as highway safety and the return of RCMP officers to the North Valley. It makes quite an impression. It definitely gets noticed and talked about within provincial government. So it's an excellent framework that we're going to have for how to work moving forward and how to resolve disputes, etc., if those should come to light. Saturday the 12th, I attended the Aboriginal Cultural Society's lunch and presentation with the BC Métis Federation. The head of the federation was there, and they donated a whole bunch of those wasp roof sprinklers. And I'll let Councillor Frizzle, who's also there, speak to the rest of that. And yesterday, I had a really interesting tour of various sites around Kamloops that are used or utilized by the TNRD and the City of Kamloops, including the new hazardous waste depot. Which is actually very small. It's sort of in behind the Fountain Tire off the highway by just past the Halston there. And you can take pretty much anything that you don't know what it is, or even if you do know what it is, sort of odd and hazardous things, they will find a way to deal with it. But you have to be living within the TNRD or the City of Kamloops, including us as resident communities. They have a lot of people try to come from other regional districts, and you can't be a commercial operator as well. But a lot of people, especially from the surrounding to the east regional districts, really want to get rid of their stuff, and there isn't an opportunity to get rid of everything from ammunition to unknown flammable liquids, and they have a lot of fun with that one. So. And I will leave it there for now and move on to Councillor Bratton.
Good afternoon. We had a few things this time. We were able to go and acknowledge the new Zamboni, which is like super cool. And I think it's a bush truck, fire truck, and the new chipper, which is fun. And
it was the new water tender.
Water tender. Thank you. And good work by all getting that all together. We also went to Chuchua to community, and that was very interesting. I just love connecting with all the different groups around here. And something that stuck out for me was when Ray Bowser was talking about speech training. She is a cultural education worker, and she does Indigenous speech training, which I need a lot of help with. And I thought this would be something very interesting for the District of Clearwater and all of staff to maybe get some dedicated training to all of us. Something to think about. And I have her number and contact information if we need it. And something else, Earth Day's on the 22nd, so pitch-in is coming, and almost missed it. So we'll go with the 26th Saturday, if it works for everybody. 9 to 12, and we will need bags and gloves and the dumpster brought out in front of the Sportsplex. And if people want to contact me with areas that they'd like to do, I'll get that all posted on social media and all that jazz. And I will be going to Silga April 29th to May 2nd. Oh, and election is coming up. 18 to 21st is advanced polling, and it is at the Legion, and I am working the day of. So yay, I'll get to see you maybe possibly there as a polling station, and I am at the Legion there as well. But check your voting cards as to where you're supposed to vote. That's all I have.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I noted my voting card was in the mail. I almost said voting cards, but that would probably trigger something. Anyways, Councillor Frizzle.
Thank you. I also attended the community forum, and I remember attending the very first one that was held. So it was really great to see how our relationship has grown as we work together to make what's best for our entire valley. So I was very proud to sign the memorandum between Simcoe and the district. I also attended the BC Métis Federation, the Aboriginal Centre meeting on the 13th, I think it was. Anyways, it was Saturday. And the reason that the Métis donated the 30 WASC sprinklers is because we've been sort of delegated as very hazardous. So we have a good chance of having a major fire here. So the sprinklers are going to be donated to people that can't afford to buy their own. But it also generated a lot of discussions around the table about what they can do to make their community safe. And there's a lot of not concerns, but a lot of people are looking at their own property and already started the fire smarting of their property, but they're concerned about their neighbors that maybe aren't. You know, they look over and see their grass has grown too high, there's cedar trees or bushes in their yard, there's old cars, old tires. Apparently one of the things that we were told is that old cars sitting in your property are like a bomb waiting to go off if there's a fire. So that's a concern, you know, like your wood stacked in front of the homes and everything. So I encourage everyone to take a look at their properties and see if they're at risk if there is a fire. And if you're unsure of how your property is, you can always phone and get an assessment by our Fire Smart coordinator, Chance Breckenridge. So take the opportunity to do that and make our community as safe as we can. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, the number of derelict cars has been brought up as a bylaw issue by multiple people. That I think is third. Composting is, I think, number one right now. Dogs, and then unsightly yards is always a thing, and unsightly usually means flammable things. So, yeah. So thank you for bringing that up, Councillor Herring.
Yeah, not much to update. Same as everyone else, I was at the community forum at SIMP last week, and just really exciting to be a part of that and see what everybody across the valley is working on. I think there's a lot of good opportunities for us to cooperate on everything from emergency management to tourism to new signage. So I think there's really some good opportunity there. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. I could speak about this topic for a while now, but had the opportunity to go to the COFI convention in Prince George, April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. COFI, the Council of Forest Industries for BC. Opening keynote for that for the 2025 convention was delivered by Regional Chief Terry TG of the BC Assembly of First Nations. TG, former RPF, who's no stranger to the decline over the forest industry over recent years. His address underscored the significance of First Nations play in the forest industry, both as stewards of the land and as active participants in the economic fabric of this ever-changing sector. He noted how the relationships with all levels of government have changed in the past decade, and with the implementation of UNDRIP, he highlighted how it's impacted the decision-making process, particularly in the natural resource sector. As he said, real progress goes beyond revenue sharing. It means creating full and meaningful partnerships where First Nations are involved in the decision-making and consent right from the beginning. Amid these economic challenges that the sector is facing, one of the common themes is the potential for expanding trade to emerging markets in the Indo-Pacific region. Indo-Pacific region right now is projected to account for over half of the global economy over the next 2 decades. So strengthening ties with these rapidly developing economies will definitely support sustainable growth and stability. The theme for that convention was Where Do We Stand? Strategies for Competitiveness and Sustainability. Next, they had Kurt Nidequet. He was the Vice President, Chief Economist at Kofi. He's urged the layout for an economic strategy for the drive to 45. Our current AAC, allowable annual cut, sits at just under 45.3 million cubic meters. AAC has been on a steady decline as of recent years, attributed factors, as we all know, mountain pine beetle, wildfire, government regulation. These regulatory constraints are limiting the ability to manage timber supply effectively. And out of our AAC for last year, we only harvested 36 million cubic meters of that AAC. While that's been on the decline, it's been a critical issue. Increasing costs have also been a significant concern. BC has become what it seems is a high-cost jurisdiction for forestry. This situation's been sped up by regulatory challenge, fluctuating market conditions, and tariffs. Tariffs that are more than just policy issues, they're creating real-world impacts, driving up costs, limit export opportunities, and injecting uncertainty into long-term planning. Obviously, there was a lot to take in over these 3 days, so I will just finish off with a few notes from Forest Minister Parmar. He'll be looking at speeding up permitting. Currently, we're sitting at approximately 80% of permits are approved by the 40-day mark. He's looking to expedite that number, getting it cut into half to 20 days relatively soon. And end goal is seeing permits approved within days. I have a tough time seeing that, but it sure sounds good anyway. He's looking at expediting First Nations referral processes as well as post-wildfire salvage permits. Amidst these tariffs that are on the loom here, Minister will be looking at assembling a softwood lumber task force to deal with that. And the centerpiece of his Minister Parmar's address revolved around the complete overhaul of the BCTS. He acknowledged they've underperformed and they need to be more flexible. There's a lot you can go into detail about that, but he's appointed George Abbott, Brian Frankel, and Leonard Joe with this task, and I think with those 3 guys on board, I would like to say he picked the right 3 for that team. In the end, I've attended a handful of these Kofi conferences in the last 2 terms, and although there's always ample supply of lip service provided, during my drive home, I had time to reflect, and these 3 days there, on that drive home, I actually felt the most optimistic I was of probably 4 or 5 that I've been to after leaving this one. So yeah, it was a good conference. Always look forward to that one, and I was raised on timber dollars, so this is something that I'd like to pursue here. So anyway, that's it.
And you attended SIP
yes.
as well. Yeah.
C2C, thank you.
Well. Yeah, I know, and thank you. That's interesting, your comments on several of those topics, especially on just the general feeling of optimism. I'm getting that from other people in the sector, that they feel that things will move forward at a faster pace. But once again, like you say, believe it when you see it.
Proof is in the pudding, right?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for your very detailed and interesting report there, and you always bring back good reports from Kofi, so thank you for that. Councillor Matheson.
Not a lot to report that everybody hasn't talked about already. I think the highlight of my couple of years on council is being involved in the C2C memorandum of understanding signing, and I think there's nothing but positives going to come out of that. I think the Valley with a big voice is going to go places, and yeah, I think it was a great thing. One thing that I will mention, I am seeing some fire smarting going on around town. Some people who I didn't think were getting the message were dropping trees. So I'm quite happy to see that. And I hope that people really pick up on that and start looking and can, like Lynn says, look after your neighbors. Think about not just yourself, but what's beside you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Bratton brought it up again today when talking about pitch-in, but the concept of at some time in the future doing a chip-in, which is a great name for neighborhood chipping days. So I really like that one. Moving on to Councillor Sim.
Thanks very much. Similar to what's gone around the tables, so I'll fill in a couple of blanks with a huge thank you to the staff for putting together a beautiful basket that was given as a part of the gift extension to SIMP. It was really, really lovely and well received, and it was nice to hear the oohs in the audience. So it's always a bit nerve-wracking. So it was appreciate your time and attention to that. Also, just a shout out to thank those who organized CD Saturday. That was a really good turnout with some really interesting information, and especially to see the DOC team out there and talking about the chips and how that might be utilized, and tying the two together between agriculture and a resource. And I think there's some real opportunities there. Also, just I hope that we can share out the information about when polling is, and the fact that it's at the Legion. It was really easy to assume that it's going to be here at the DLCC, and I was surprised. Some other things happening at the DLCC, thanks to Kyler Miller for emceeing last night's forum and the organization that was put together by the Chamber. And also just a shout out to keep sharing opportunity to join the Public Art Advisory Committee. I was able to speak briefly on that on CBC this morning and just talk about how art can really invigorate a community and create social spaces that invigorate and blend and combine and connect. Dog park, aka possibly dating environments. And also some very good news for BC is that the MCCQE exams, which sounds like super complicated, and they were, are no longer required for physicians wanting to come from the UK. So where we used to see processes that could take up to 2 and 3 years, they could be reduced now down to 4 months. And that's just it is amazing. It's actually a really good move for British Columbia, and hopefully that will solicit, our opportunity to welcome more people from far off lands. And lastly, since Hazel's in the audience, we will just extend a belated birthday to Joe Wadliger for celebrating his 90th birthday, which is kind of a big deal. And of course, all the legacies that he has left in the memories and the roots that he's planted here. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was a lot of good information. And yes, on the polling. Moving on to item 15, verbal report from CAO Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the point of this report is just to talk briefly about the Official Community Plan, or OCP. The Official Community Plan is just started the process of being renewed. We've gone out to RFP, which was our first step. The RFP was issued on April 1st with the closing date of the 23rd. So what is an official community plan? The official community plan is the key visioning document for council. The OCP has a 20-year time frame, so we're talking about how we want to see the community develop over the next 20 years. Although the OCP can be amended as needed during that time frame. So they always refer to the OCP as a living document. What they mean by that is it refers to here's what we see the community looks like along with any changes over the years we made. So truly is a thing that can change. All municipal policies, plans, and regulations must be in alignment with the OCP. That's why it's such an important visioning document. It helps the community to move forward in a coordinated fashion. Some factors that must be included in the OCP and considered are the economy, the environment, housing and growth, transportation needs, as well as a host of other needs. The OCP is the major determinant of land use planning. So when we talk about OCPs, we're talking about what do we see as appropriate uses for the lands in the community. This drives housing development, commercial development, and industrial development. The OCP provides direction to council, to investors, and to the community at large. Essentially, an OCP provides a blueprint for positive change and growth over the next 20 years. Some of the special considerations when we went out for the RFP is that there's 5 real key areas. Number 1 is housing. Housing is at the end is the driver for the OCP. It's why the province decided to step up and require municipalities such as ourselves to get the OCP done. Not only require it, but make grant funding available for it. So this is being funded by the province. Other areas where we need to focus on as a community are small business and tourism. Small business has become an even more important driver of the community, of employment and investment, and it's good to look through the OCP with that lens of small business. One of the areas we asked for to be considered in the OCP was visioning around our urban centers. And so the urban centers that we're talking about are the area around the traffic circle. How do we make it more than just a truck stop with a view? Around the old North Thompson. So that potentially goes right down to the Brookside Mall, the Brookfield Mall, and all the way up to the intersection. So it's an important urban area. And then Strawberry Flats as well. Strawberry Flats shouldn't be ignored. While there are development challenges down there, I think it needs to be addressed and how we can move that area forward and kind of get that area revitalized again. One of the other key focuses for the OCP is infrastructure. Infrastructure is currently a significant and growing constraint on development. And OCPs are really great to do visioning on how we want the community to look like. But if it's not tied to infrastructure and what those infrastructure needs are, some of those visions are really no more than pretty pictures that we all get to admire, right? You need the connection to infrastructure so we understand how to make these projects move ahead and what some of those constraints are. And then one interesting little wrinkle to our OCP is we've asked that the consultants specifically consider the Taseko mine potential. Now, obviously that is not a go-ahead at this point in time, and we're not building it into the core OCP. The core OCP must be based on population projections, what are included in the housing needs analysis. That's the requirement. But it wouldn't be appropriate not to consider the Taseko mine potential, because it has the ability to change so much to the community, to change the housing needs, to change the whole commercial aspect, to see some very significant changes. So we asked for the consultant to review that and to provide a separate memo with here's what the results are going to be, here's what you as a community you need to be working on as it moves through the process, and if it looks, the more and more that it looks like it's moving ahead. So it's one of the important focuses. There's a bunch of other focuses to the OCP, but council's talked about those in the past or they're in our existing OCP. And then finally, the main point of an OCP is public engagement. So the public engagement side of it can't be overstated. The point of it is to be able to talk to the community, find out the community wishes for development, and as broad-based of engagement as possible. So that's engagement to the general public, to stakeholders, to business owners, and obviously to council itself. There's a long list of it, or not a long list, a short list of engagement inputs that they're seeking from. Or that we've asked for in the RFP. A robust engagement strategy and program, updated land use scenarios for public review based on existing neighborhood plans, prepare all comms and engagement materials, including comment sheets, advertising, mapping, and displays, attend and facilitate all public meetings, use the OCP development process to educate the public on the cost of infrastructure, and establish policies and priorities in the identified and statutory topics, using it with inclusion of the public in that process. So it's designed to get the public involved in every step of the process. The interesting challenge with engagement is, and I've learned this over the years working for municipalities, is it can be really challenging to engage certain aspects of the community, right? We think we're doing, a good engagement process through our normal channels, through whether it's Facebook or other electronic formats or public meetings. The real challenge is there's groups who don't attend those. So we're going to be asking for the consultants to bring back an engagement plan at the start of this to say, how are you going to engage? And I think it's a chance where council will really be able to give some input into how that engagement is going to occur. There's also some local discussion, I understand, about establishing a steering committee, such as was put in place, I think the last go round of the OCP back a long time ago, 2011. That's not necessarily the process that that consultants like to use. Some do that steering committee aspect, others don't. The problem with the steering committee is that sometimes folks out in the community will be thinking, well, I don't need to engage, there's already the steering committee engaged. And that the steering committee itself gets kind of an outsized voice in the development of the OCP. The gold standard is to get out there and talk to as many people as possible without necessarily it being filtered back through a steering committee. And at the end of the day, council truly is the steering committee for that, the elected council. So whether another committee is called or anticipated, that'll depend probably on the consultant and what their engagement plan looks like. But again, the standard that we're hoping for is very broad community engagement. So that closes in another week or so. So I understand there's quite a bit of interest in the actual RFP and a lot of people have picked it up. So we'll see how that goes and we'll be happy to report that back to you, Council.
Thank you for your report. Any questions of Mr. Johnson? Councillor Sim.
Once the RPF has closed and submissions are sent, what is the process for reviewing?
Thank you, Councillor. That's a really great question. So right in the RFP, there's a long list of requirements and what we're going to be the parameters that we'll be judging the RFP on. And I won't go through it. It's quite a long list, even though I love to hear myself talk. So we will be basically looking at the various consultants, the various proposals, and we'll be ranking them based on the criteria listed in the RFP. And then we'll be selecting the 2 top candidates. Those top candidates, we're actually, we'll be bringing them in for a panel interview. So interviewing them, really understanding their process, really trying to understand their theory behind engagement and what kind of innovative techniques or what they extra they bring to that table. And it's after that, that's a scored panel interview, so it contributes to the weighting of the findings. And then based on that, there will be a recommendation to council.
So supplemental, if I may, is when you say we, who is we? Is that staff? Is that council? Who is the we?
At this point, it is anticipated to be staff. If council wanted to put a member on that, council could do that. We would be fine with that.
The only thing that I would be really interested in is having people from the outside of the community present their ideas on engagement and just, how does that match, with how our community works. So they may have some really good ideas, but it may not be it may not be a good fit. So I think, as you've mentioned, that the engagement's really important, but sometimes that can be hard for somebody who doesn't necessarily know the community and looking for that guidance, which staff could surely do. And it's such a critical piece.
Thank you. And to that point, when it comes to the engagement, we're looking for consultants who have experience in smaller communities as well. So this isn't necessarily ones who are just used to the large centers where there's very kind of standard ways of engaging. We're looking for experience with smaller communities. And in addition, it's an area where council will be able to have input onto that engagement plan. That plan will be coming back to council specifically.
So don't scan a QR code at the bus stop. We're going to think bigger.
You bet.
And then my last question on that is when are we expected to embark on the process? Was that in the RPF?
And for the record, it's a RFP.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Professional foresters are not included in the process.
I know, but
Unless they're community members,
enthralled
but,
by Councillor McKenzie's enthusiasm for the Kofi, so it just spilled over.
Thank you, and I apologize for being cheeky.
I can
But,
accept that and appreciate a good cheekiness.
So we're hoping, we've got a very short window for this. Like, it's a very short window stated. We're trying to get this accomplished by the end of the year. So by December 31st. That's a tough goal. I think whoever picks this up is going to have a solid team ready to go as soon as possible. My anticipation is in May, and I can't say a date, but in May they'll be on the ground working.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments? No. Thank you for that very detailed report and the comments following that really, I think will spell out at least what we know for now until we see the final responses to that. So thank you for that. Moving on to new business, authorization to purchase Type 3 bush truck. There is a staff report and a recommendation. So, any comments from staff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's one of those days.
I was going to say council chair, but you're still the mayor. So council will remember that we brought back this little change to our purchasing bylaw to approve if we're entering into a purchase and it's going to be over the limit for myself, which is $100,000 for a single purchase. So if a purchase is going to be over that amount, we asked specifically that we could make the purchase and then come back later with council and suggest to you, here's what the amount was, here's what we bought. The reason we did that was specifically for an occurrence like this where we're buying a piece of used equipment. And used equipment, by its very nature, tends to be quite transitory. You see it, it's a deal, you go check it out, make sure it's the one you want, and then you buy it. There's no, let's wait 2 weeks till we get authorization. So what we're asking for in this case is that council would apply this rule for a bush truck. And we've identified a number of different bush trucks, but we think the price is going to be somewhere in the order of 100, possibly a little bit more than $100,000. So we're seeking approval to authorizes the CAO to exceed the standard delegated authority for the purpose of purchasing a Type 3 bush truck up to the budgeted amount in the 2025-2029 financial plan. So the point of it is the dollars have been authorized. We just need to be able to speed up the actual purchasing transaction. Thank you.
Okay, and that makes sense to me. Thank you for that clarification. I was wondering where this was going, but are there further questions or comments? Okay, seeing none at this point, can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Matheson, second by Councillor Kenzie. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? And that passes. Thank you for the work on this, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Moving on to 16.2, strategic plan update. And there is a recommendation as well as a report on table here. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we did chat about this at our last council meeting about some updated areas and suggestions to the strategic plan. And at that council meeting, I suggested that we develop specific categories for infrastructure, community safety, and economic development. So that's being done with this strategic planning report in front of you. And it's on page 21 of your agenda. The areas marked draft are the new areas. the areas with no markings at all, your existing strategic plan was left the same. There was no consensus in that meeting about changing any of those items on that plan. So the new areas are under infrastructure was to develop and renew utility systems, to develop plans for other infrastructure. So under that would be, that sounds a little vague, but that would be infrastructure master plans, facility master plans, parks and trails, and potentially a road master plans. All of those are currently in our 5-year window. So they're not all going to happen this year, but staged out over the next number of years. Focus as well on community safety. So under that community safety rubric falls emergency management. We're working towards continuous improvement, our wildfire mitigation program, and our wildfire response capabilities. We've talked a lot about those in the last little while. I won't review those. Other community safety initiatives, and that's a district to engage in and facilitate important safety initiatives. That includes bylaw enforcement. That includes business licensing enforcement. That includes fire bylaw enforcement. So there's some enforcement actions under here as well. That's a area where the new initiatives do come up on a regular basis. Under the economic development category, something that I know we've talked about on this chambers already is exploring and developing our preferred economic development model. The OCP update, which I just did a bit of a review on, and project planning. And that's specifically under project planning would be working with developers. Working with TASECO would fall under that, but they're certainly not the only project in the area. So those are the areas we talked about previously. Yeah, and I leave it with council. So the only other updates is council had some suggested for our strategic actions summary, which is the following 2 pages, where there were some great suggestions around how to be a bit more clear with the information. So some of the things that aren't started, instead of just saying not applicable, we would actually put that it's not started. So I think we've covered off those concerns of council, and we are open to any questions or additions or comments that council would make on that, of course.
Thank you for the work. That was excellent. Comments or questions on this? I'll give you a second to percolate.
I have
Go ahead, Councillor Bratton.
earlier today there was an email from Councillor Sim, and I actually quite liked her suggestion. I'm new to this, so I haven't seen a lot of strategic plans in my lifetime. So seeing how Barrier did theirs, it was kind of a neat way to, we have these goals, we have these projections, this is what we've met. I thought that was really to be able to put on the front page as part of the detail. But I'm wondering if our rundown of the Excel spreadsheet, is that what you mean that to detail, is how we're doing, where we've been, where we're going? Is that what that is to maybe describe?
Thank you, Councillor.
That makes
so
sense.
Those colorful spreadsheets following, there's really the strategic actions that we're working on currently. And where we did make some effort to tie those into the strategic focus areas of council is the last column on those color pages. We actually specifically connected them to what the initiative is. What the primary initiative is. Some of them actually work towards a few of the different initiatives together, but the primary initiative we're working on with that action item. So I haven't reviewed the Barrier report.
Right.
Sounds like a good one, and I'd be happy to review it. But currently, this is where we're at with the strategic actions that council's ordered over the last years that we're still working on, and that is the connection to the actual strategic plan at the last column.
Okay. Do you have further comments or questions, Councillor Bratton? Nope. Anybody else? Councillor Sim?
Thanks very much, and thanks for the willingness to look at what our neighbors do. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is with the implementation and the development of the new OCP, which is our 20-year vision. Then our strategic plan sort of breaks that down into like a 4-year vision. And the 4-year vision is directly related to our budget. So it is this lovely life cycle of operations within the district. And why I liked looking at what Barrier was doing is because what we at the C2C is there any alignment? So are there projects that can actually be connected? How are there any sort of overlaps and similarities? The other thing that if we take our spreadsheet, which is on the last page, and we break it down into goals and objectives underneath each of those points that you've listed in the strategic plan, it gives a really nice report card and a really nice way for the community to follow along the work of council and how that's impacting and benefiting the community. I like a report card. I think it's helpful. Like, pardon? This green sheet? Yeah, but you can't follow it along. I mean, this is like algebra for like the general public. But if it was broken down, so if you take that last item, so that last column, and all the items, let's say, that identify to number 14, you just put it under number 14. So it's an easy 2-page read about this is our goals and our objectives. So you tie it together. So it's just tightening it up. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then this becomes a working document as opposed to an accompanied document. So the final column is just the check marks underneath. So these are the action items for what we're going to accomplish under each of those topics. Councillor Herring, what do you think?
Councillor Herring.
I'm on the spot, I guess. So I think for me, going from 10 to 17 priorities raises a few red flags. And simply from the fact that there's, from a council strategic direction point of view, we have a year and a half left and we've significantly expanded our priorities. So to me, there's a little bit of a challenge there. And to me, some of these, there's, for example, enhancing regional collaboration and partnerships are both numbered priorities here, and they fit under different objectives, but ostensibly they're the same thing, right? And so I feel like we could pare this back, make this simpler, make this a shorter list, because my fear is, when you have too many priorities, you have no priorities. If we're going for, a 1.5-year plan here, let's pare this back to what really is going to happen in 18 months for the district. And that's my take on it, but I'm not sure how others feel. I really look at this section on healthy community, improving housing affordability. We have a very limited impact there. I don't believe we have a role in healthcare. Enhancing community vibe is great. Does that not fit with the economic development model? I think there's things we could pare out of this, but that's just my take.
Further comments from anybody else? Councillor Sim or somebody else? I mean, I like the expansion, I think, but it's not really, I don't really see it as adding a lot, because I think it just breaks out some things that were probably a little bit muddied. As far as formatting, my issue is if we're doing a report card, keep it separate from the strategic plan, have it as a thing, not separate in philosophy, but separate as a document so that it can be changed or modified on a regular basis versus constantly having to crack into the strategic plan. I see Mr. Johnson has his thought.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the actual formatting changes to the report card, that's pretty easy. We'll bring that back to the next time we bring this report back. We'll organize it by topic area as opposed to just kind of a random list of items. I think that's a solid suggestion. With regards to the number of items here, and Councillor Herring's comments about let's put this down to what we're going to get done in the next 18 months. That is a concern, obviously, but we're doing this strategic plan for like a 4-year window. What are the key things out there? It's not just for 18 months. So, for example, when we talked about infrastructure plans, facility master plans, those type of things, those are not in the next 18 months, but there's still strategic items that council needs to be aware of that we're trying to do. And I think for a lot of these, improving housing affordability, over the next 18 months, are we going to do a lot to improve housing affordability? Maybe, maybe not, depending how some projects go. But I suspect it's good to have as a goal that we're always working towards, but the win is not going to be, there's not going to be an instant win there by any means.
And on that, I mean, it's listed as 2025 to 27 at the top of the document. And part of the thinking that I would put to that is that the next council beyond us generally does not get the opportunity to do their own vision strategic plan for 6 or 8 months after they're elected. So they are technically, and staff are technically being guided by the previous council's strategic plan. So there is a bit of a hangover that we need to acknowledge on that. Further questions or comments? Councillor Sim.
I do like the fact that what I'm hoping that we can work on, and so when I look at this, it's basically the 6 strategic areas, and I agree with you, Councillor Herring, is that there's some things here that I think that we can take off, like improving housing affordability. You're right, that's beyond our scope. But we can look at the DCC. So does that fit better under a golden objective for infrastructure? So I think taking, these documents, the attached Excel report, it's exactly what staff is suggesting, is how do we then make them more measurable, and so that we're moving towards them. I also think that it's important because if you take these documents and you compare them to our budget, again, it shows how the actions are supporting the vision that we have for the district. And when that is passed over to the next council, they do have a working blueprint. Because, I remember when I first started, and I have 2 bumper stickers, instant gratification takes too long. And then I learned change is a long conversation. And so it's really easy if you jump on council and you think everything can be changed, and you forget about things like the community charter. And there's actually a playbook, which is super boring. But if we can do our job, well, it's true, it is. It's like, what do you mean we can't rewrite the way we want to do things? And often people will come on board, and I was one of them. It's like, great, how do we run the town like a business? And then it's like, oh, well, that's a drag. But what we do here with our strategic plan sets the vision, and so we can help our next colleagues who take this on, and we can give them that guiding step. And if it's really clear, and then also if we provide something that's, actionable, then people say, you know what, I want to join on. I want to share that vision, especially with work that's going to be done with the OCP. To be kind of nerdy, this is kind of a great point in time for council.
Thanks for those comments. Further comments or questions? Anybody?
So does staff need us to talk about removing anything? Is that what you're asking direction, or are you going to just bring back another draft? That's what I'd like to get clear on.
So my question is, and because the barrier plan was brought up as an influence to this, I have not had time to review the barrier plan. If council, there's a couple of different things. One, do we want to see a revised version of this before passing this? 2, do people on council wish to table this in order to have more time to contemplate this, perhaps to the next council meeting? Or are you okay with moving ahead with what we have on the table right now and allowing staff to do modifications to the reporting sheets, is what I'll call them? So, Councillor Matheson.
I think I'd like to see it tabled down the road. I haven't had a chance to have a look at the barrier thing there, so I'm kind of flying blind here. So I think maybe we could delay it to the next council meeting.
Okay, how does everybody else feel about that?
Does that work for staff if we table it till the next meeting?
Yes, we can table it till the next meeting. The dates we need to worry about this is the strategic plan has to be included in the annual report.
Okay.
So that annual report time's coming up in June. The annual report is, but you have to make it available to the public prior to that. So if we're going to do a significant change to it, don't know that we have time for it. If it's to change the format or whatever, we can do that quite quickly, and we could do that for the next meeting. But if we table it to the next meeting, we I think need a little bit of direction on where council would like to see it possibly.
Hey. thoughts on those comments? Thoughts from the table? Councillor Sim?
Yeah, and I think that basically what you've done is you've already done the bulk of the work with the Excel sheet, and it's just changing the format. And if that could be brought back at the next meeting, then I think it's easier to tie it together. It's not to copy or replicate, what our neighbors next door have done, but just to demonstrate the ease of which it is to see the action items of council. That was it.
I'm comfortable with the draft as it is, and I know it's not everybody's happy with everything on here, but I think it does go with the spirit of what was there before and just defines a few sections a bit more. There's a lot of things, and I take Councillor Herring's points very clearly, like advancing healthcare. Traditionally, it has not been a thing. 5 years ago is not a conversation that I ever had, and now it is a weekly conversation that we have. And until that changes, and I hope it changes, that we are out of the business of advocating for healthcare, because our healthcare system is stable locally and provincially. But until then, these are these weird things that become part of strategic plans that may not be in our wheelhouse, but here we are for the duration of that issue, and dealing with the development cost charge issues, bylaw zoning, things like that, I think are essential, and I do think those are core. But if we don't get that to a point where we are comfortable with it, developers are comfortable with it, and our staff in planning and other departments are comfortable with it, so we can all agree that this is a way that everybody can move forward with clarity. Yeah, there's priorities in here that I see as essential of getting done before this council leaves. So those are my thoughts. Anybody have thoughts? Sorry, I'm mumbling along. If not, does somebody wish to move this? Adopted updated strategic plan is presented. So the current one page with the draft, fully noting that staff has already agreed to come back and modify the spreadsheet. So that's to move this page. That's what this is doing, and noting that staff has already committed to dealing with the colored spreadsheet page and bringing it back in either two formats, one that highlights it and the ones that's existing. I guess we'll see that at the next council meeting. But this is what we're moving is this, just this.
Yep, I'll make that motion.
Okay, move that seconder on that.
I will.
Thank you, Councillor Brad. Further discussion? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Frizzle.
So moving this, will there be any changes made to this in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is?
Thank you, Councillor. So for the next council meeting, we'll bring back this report, the actions item. We'll have it reformatted, so there's a clearer link between this versus the actual strategic plan, which was what's proposed to be adopted.
But this will stay the way it is now. That's what I'm asking.
With the drafts taken off.
Yes, of course.
Okay, for Councillor Sim, I see you getting your mic ready.
I just wondered that because we really haven't had an opportunity to sit down at a longer session, like the last time we did this was several months ago, and I'm wondering, because we do have a new CAO, if there is time in the future that you would suggest sitting down and maybe doing another extension for, it is only 2025 to 2027. Would you see sitting down and doing a longer version of brainstorming and yeah.
Thank you, but yes, I think that's important, and I think this council could do that as a direction and some kind of assist to whoever the next council is going to be. But I think there's more value in waiting until the OCP is completed, because the OCP is going to drive a lot of items through here, whether that's the small business aspects of it, whether that's potentially preparing for a large development coming in. I think it's going to inform a lot of what we do of what we're looking forward to. So I would say after that OCP development would be the time to sit down and say, okay, let's take another kick at this thing.
So I probably won't vote for this particular strategic plan, only because, is it a surprise? It's been a passion of mine for the past 6 months.
6, 7 years, 11, 12.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Anyway, I don't love it. I'm certainly feeling very confident about how staff is going to translate it, but it's not something that I'm really comfortable with. But I am excited to do a more full and in-depth one after the OCP, and really getting one that stands as just a beacon for the future.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Further discussion? If not, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you.
Put me as opposed. Thanks.
Sorry, I should have done that. Moving on to the next one, which is Wells Grade Community Forest Society appointment. There is a recommendation. It's fairly straightforward. We can discuss. There's also a spot on here for an alternate, who, if somebody wishes to be appointed as alternate to the community as my alternate, or you could all vote against this, and I wouldn't be the person assigned to the Community Forest Society, and then we would have a different discussion. But it's a long recommendation. I'll let you do thoughts and questions.
I'd certainly make the motion, but we do need to fill in the blank that council appoint an alternate.
So is anybody interested, and I see still reading, being an alternate? Councillor Herring?
I would also be interested.
No, I'm not expressing interest. Definitely not. But I think what I'm wondering is, could we appoint acting mayor as alternate, so that it's a rotational basis that goes along with the acting mayor position?
That's an interesting idea.
Good question.
I am looking at staff going, is it a person, or is and knowing alternates on TNRD, it is a human being that is assigned to it, not a position. Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Mayor, my only concern with appointing the acting mayor is there's a orientation process where you have to go through and understand what they're doing with it. So if the acting mayor is unwilling to do that process, and Mr. Mayor, you've just had some of that orientation yourself, so you'd be able to speak to how onerous that is.
Yeah, the Community Forest Society, and I believe the commission, the corporation, which I'm not directly involved in, only as the society is a shareholder for the corporation, has done an incredible amount of work on governance and structure. They have a very impressive governance workbook. They are following procedures, society procedures, in a way that I have not experienced before with that society, which is fantastic. A lot of effort has been put there. So it is not just show up and take the role. It is, you need to understand what you're getting into, and you would have basically a rule book going into the meetings. So, but it is not, you all have been at this table doing governance. You understand how that works. Many of you have done society work, so you do understand the principles. You would just need to understand the tailored principles and asks from the Community Forest Society. So Councillor Sim has declared an interest. Anybody else? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Frizzle. Okay. There you go. Seconder on that. Second by Councillor McKenzie. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor. And that passes. Thank you, unanimously. Moving on. Hey, exciting stuff. Sportsplex 2024-2025 season report. I believe Mr. Mayor is going to speak to this, and there are some impressive numbers in here. So
yes.
Whenever you're ready, fire away.
Mayor and Council, yes, we had an extremely busy season this year. The chart below on the report here shows how much our numbers have increased. Since the pandemic slowed down, things have really taken off since then. These numbers are better than anything we had before the pandemic as well. We're almost at the point where we have reached maximum rentals. Yeah. I want to recognize a couple of people. One is Leanne Culp, who just did a tremendous job bringing teams in this year. And then also all the staff. We had some problems with staffing this year. We had our supervisor go down with a health issue. All the other staff stepped up, stepped in, and we didn't have a single closure this year due to shortage of staff. In the last couple of years, we had 5 closures each year. The other person I'd like to recognize is Brian Spear. He has stepped forward as a casual worker. On his own, he's gotten his refrigeration operator certificate, and now he is stepping into a full-time position with the district. So with the rest of these numbers, you can see how it translates to economic development, room rentals, and that sort of thing. I've attached as well a weekend schedule for next year, so you can see what it's looking like, how many weekends are booked already. Any questions?
Questions on this? Just coincidentally, somebody was at ICBC today who is dealing with and I hate that I've already forgotten who it was, name-wise, talking about minor ball and ball tournaments, and those are up, is my understanding. There's a tournament this weekend with 3 out of town teams at least. So it's this sort of recreation boom is not just limited to the rink. It's happening in all sorts of other things. So, which is fantastic. Is back about building town vibe. This is it. So, any questions for Mr. Mayor? Councillor Sim.
It's more for staff in the connection with Tourism Wells Grey is using these types of reports and tying it into the statistics that they get back through the MRDT. And the point being is that it does show a clear correlation, and it also does demonstrate, that economic driver that our recreation facilities provide. Also a rationale. Some people say we don't have a pool. No, we don't, but we do have a sportsplex. Sure, it does run at a deficit, but it also shows ample financial prosperity for the town in times where we might not have it. So tying those two together and just getting our reports. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you for that comment. I was going to bring that point up if somebody else hadn't. But specifically, yes. I mean, it runs many of our recreation facilities may run at a tax deficit, but as an economic driver for this community, they're massive. It's been a lot of years, but my understanding, because of the number of hotel nights alone, from out of town hockey tournaments, it is, now that especially since we're past Trans Mountain Pipeline work projects, it has definitely made Christmas in, November to March for a lot of these businesses, whether it be restaurants, hotel rooms, even grocery stores, Bosley's, whatever it happens to be, quite a difference having this many people in town. From out of town for these tournaments. It is such a good driver for a town where traditionally we think of tourism for 5 months from May 1st to September 30th. And I would also like to thank Mr. Mayor for his efforts on this, and I know he did a lot of extra hours, and I'm going to look at Mr. Johnson as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would actually like to specifically talk about that just a little bit. Obviously a big increase for our ice use, which has huge community benefits. And Roger did mention that we did have one significant staffing issue at the NTSP this year, and that was due to a medical issue with the arena supervisor who unexpectedly was off work from November to the end of the ice season. So almost the complete ice season. As council is aware, we're required to have a certified refrigerator operator on site when the ammonia plant is running. And that created an issue because the person who was off was that RO that was working most of the time. The arena supervisor is also was that key holder of that certificate. Since then, we've been training Brian, as mentioned, Brian Spear. He now has his RO, just recently graduated. But the risk that we have, it actually at the start of the year, or in November, when the medical incident was happening, we were at significant risk, and we're at risk during the year of actually having to take downtime at the arena. due to coverage on the RO position. Without the right certification, we legally can't operate it. So I really want to express gratitude to the whole crew at NTSP. They all pulled together. But in particular for Roger, I think he basically lived at the arena this winter. Weekends, was available on call all week. I don't believe that without his personal diligence, we could have had near the uptime level at the arena. And you can see the numbers. We had a really great season there. So publicly, I'd like to thank Roger and the rest of the NTSP group for the really diligent work this year. Thank you.
Comments or questions? Councillor Sim first, and then Councillor Bratton, or Councillor Bratton?
No, I was just going to follow up on one thing. I do also want to acknowledge the bonspiels that took place. And do we show what participation is from the curling club?
No, because they have a lease, it's a little bit different. They don't pay hourly. They can use as few or as many hours as they want because they're under lease. So I didn't record their hours, but right now they're curling about 8 hours a week for a 24-week schedule.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm interested in is just having watched sort of their membership, the membership numbers, because it does provide an outlet of recreation for a different demographic, and just wanting to include that in that social landscape of our recreation facility.
The curling club has shown some real growth in the last couple of years, and the volunteers there should be commended because they're doing a great job.
Yeah, and I think, again, just having those bonspiels, it's another avenue for our citizens to be able to be engaged in winter activity. Yeah. So thank you for that.
And to follow up on that, I note some scribbling out there in the audience from members of the curling club, and it would be wonderful if the curling club could voluntarily provide, even a one-pager to summarize what they do every year, so that we can extrapolate the economic benefit and the community involvement from the club. So I see nodding over there. Councillor Bratton.
I had a question. If Brian Spears paid out of his own pocket to get his training done?
He will be reimbursed.
Okay, that's what I was concerned about. And because we're so not maybe short-staffed, but very close to short-staffed, do we need to be visiting? Do we have enough staff to keep us viable for next year?
Yes, we do. Our supervisor is on a return to work program right now. He's showing a lot of recovery, and I'm looking forward to that for next year. We also have another casual staff member who's writing his refrigeration operator certificate and is very keen to work at the arena.
Mr. Johnson, do you have further comment, or no? Okay, no, I think you covered it there. And yeah, thank you. I like I don't like the word redundancy, but backup I think is wonderful. I think that's layers upon layers of safety and staffing are wonderful. So thank you for that, and thank you for your efforts, and thank you for the report. And there's nothing on that meeting other than saying thank you from council to do there. So moving on to the big highlight of the day, I think maybe the one that's drawing the interest, is community engagement for a proposed dog park. There is a staff report and there is a recommendation there. So who is doing this from staff? Mr. Prime, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the impetus of this report was just hearing from Rotary, who approached us just for, they kind of wanted to get another project going. They wanted to kind of make a bit of an impact in the community. One of the items that was discussed was potentially them fundraising for a dog park. We met with Rotary and discussed some of the potential options that had approached council before. The report's attached from 2021. That council at the time decided not to move forward with the dog park until such time that a parks master plan had been completed. Obviously, that parks master plan was originally scheduled for 2022 and has been subsequently kind of deferred each year and is now scheduled for 2026. Discussing with Rotary and staff as well, we felt that it could go ahead without the parks master plan. They didn't necessarily need to be tied hand in hand. We discussed the different location options. Since that report, staff do feel that the site that was kind of selected as the best option last time around in 2021. That's the Park Drive, site number 2 behind the high school. That in our opinion, was not necessarily the best location anymore. We do feel it would have kind of higher and better uses in the future, potentially. So our recommendation, and the one we evaluated and looked at with Rotary, was in Weyerhaeuser Park, kind of across the parking lot from the splash park, as you can see on page 43 of your agenda. You know, there's certainly benefits to this location. It is right at the water. It does have existing parking facilities. It does have existing washroom facilities. It is right close to the business center in terms of the traveling public stopping to let their dogs out, go grab a Timmy's, move on with their, because in our opinion, it's going to be a pretty heavily used sector in terms of the traveling public. In terms of, you know, if I'm traveling with my dog, often I'll Google dog park when I'm going through a community to try and figure out where to take my dog. So anecdotally, that's how I see a lot of people utilize it. But it does have its you know, importance for locals as well. And as noted in the report, and there's a scientific paper on this, academic paper rather, benefits and conflicts: a systematic review of dog park design and management strategies. You know, it really shows that well-designed dog parks promote physical activity for both dogs and dog owners, enhance social interactions, dating location, and community cohesion, and improve overall quality of life and safety. So, you know, the effective park design also kind of ties into some of the potential complaints that were discussed last time around in terms of, you know, noise with dogs barking and you know, it being in a residential, you know, neighborhood in Weyerhaeuser. You know, it is, and it was kind of looked at in this report, was that dogs do tend to bark less frequently when freely interacting and socializing with other dogs in a safe environment. So just from, you know, our experience and, you know, the reporting, that dogs don't actually tend to bark lots in dog parks. They are generally only open for daytime hours, dawn to dusk, so you should, you know, dogs wouldn't be there at night barking. So some of those complaints maybe would be mitigated through kind of consultation with, you know, the neighbors and kind of discussing how it would be intended to work and just trying to assuage some of those fears. It kind of ties it around to the recommendation, which is we're just looking to initiate some community engagement within a set parameter. 100 meters was what we believed. That's about 15 homes of the proposed dog park. And we'd also like to prepare an updated cost estimate to support Rotary Club in their fundraising activities. They were looking to get national funding as well, but they needed a better cost estimate, one that's more up to date. And I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. Questions? I've also done the world tour of dog parks within the Thompson Okanagan just to see how it all works. I would agree with your statement that most of the barking that came from other dogs were neighbors that were barking actually at me, not the dog. The interaction, the dog could go up to the fence, they'd have their little sniff, tails would wag, and then I would walk by and they'd, you know, react to the intruder.
Yeah.
Another comment, and it's in the report, but I think it's important to detail. A lot of the dog parks that seem to be in places are essentially flat grass. That's not necessarily the intention here.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
That's definitely not the intention. If anything, there would be some thinning, just some brushing, getting clear some of the low brush, potentially a gravel path kind of going around the perimeter of the proposed park area, and all of the trees would essentially stay to the, you know, best of their ability as long as they were safe. We'd certainly have to do a danger tree assessment through there, but leaving it forested for sure. And that is the more modern design for dog parks, I believe, parks, is to kind of keep it forested as best as possible.
Yeah, I did note that Kamloops on the. Do you know that Kamloops got a dog park specifically built by Trans Mountain because they had to run pipeline under their existing pipeline or their park, and that offer was here by a Trans Mountain contractor apparently that disappeared when that contractor left. So, not that I'm bitter or anything, but further questions or comments on this? Go ahead, Councillor Bratton.
I really like that suggestion of where to do it and keeping the trees in there. As a photographer, I'm in there a lot with people walking their dogs, and it is highly used already. And I think people already, if they're local, are aware of the area. They do a fairly good job of mitigating their excrement and whatnot. So it's fairly clean in there for the most part. And the only other thing I was wondering is, I do know watching, this is gonna sound stupid, videos of dog parks, there's usually a run trails, maybe possibly, like an area to be able to huck your ball in a good distance. Don't know if that needs to be in a thought process of it, but that's one to think about. So, but I think that area is a great spot.
Thank you for that. Councillor Sim.
Thanks very much. Recommendation number 1, that council direct staff to initiate community engagement within 100 meters. What would the community engagement mean?
Thank you, Councillor Sim through Mayor Blackwell. The community engagement, we would be reaching out with a letter to all the registered property owners, seeking their feedback, letting them know of the proposed dog park, and ostensibly asking them to write back if they have any concerns. We don't believe it would require an open house specifically for these 15 homes at this time, and then we'd come back to council kind of with, if we heard anything from those kind of within the 100-meter buffer.
So one of the things that we've heard through various forms of input on the budget, and that is the dog park is important. Dog park is important to the community. Is there any consideration of when people might be able to give their ideas for it, or is this just going to go forward? So when we put forward this idea that says we're going to do an engagement for 15 homes, I'm not sure that that's always been articulated what that means, because it sounds like it's almost like a zoning process. Whereas, is there a part of the process that will take feedback from the rest of the community?
Good question. Anybody want to take a crack at that? Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. We can build that into it. So I think the first point here is to talk to the neighbors, gauge the neighborhood reaction, do some baseline costing. You'll note the cost in the report, the previous cost. That's really an aged out cost now. We need to do that, and that'll tell us basically, here's what we can do as far as additional features within the dog park. The idea of a running area, that's a good idea, right? So we can look at, when we bring it back to council, if it otherwise looks positive, we could ask, at a council meeting, if people have ideas to respond to it, and we'd be happy to respond to the ideas. There's some really cool stuff built for dog parks as far as some of the little adventure play things they do with them. But they all have a price tag, right? So at the end of the day, we could bring that back and let council see what those other options would be.
Yeah. Further, Councillor Sim?
Yeah, and I really appreciate that, because following, where's the dog park? The second one is, where can my dog cool down in the summer, is the next one. So the fact that this location has access to water, it would be interesting to hear some of the feedback that might come in. And again, acknowledging, let's talk about the options, but understand that this is maybe a price tag to it. And is the community willing to pay for amenities that they see as beneficial? I would be interested in hearing those things. So I appreciate that being embedded now.
Thank you for comments. Anybody further? If not, there is a recommendation on the table. Who's jumping up and down to move? Thank you. And seconded by 2 dog owners. Councillor Matheson moved, and seconded by Councillor Herring. Any further discussion? I love this. I think that this going forward is going to be a highlight of things that happen, and I think there's going to be no problem getting community donations from this one for sure. So, all those in favor? Okay, and that passes. Moving on to item 17.1, bylaws. There is first and second reading of the 5-year plan. I thought I saw a version where there was first, second, and third reading. Is that not? No, it's just first and second. And third? Oh. Okay, it's just the way my page is aligned. Okay, anyways, good. So there's a staff report, and I'm quite sure Ms. Klassen is going to tell us things.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Today I bring forward to you the Financial Plan Bylaw 323-2025 for the first, second, and third reading. This is the resolution that we're looking for. And just to recap some of our process for the financial plan process, we've reviewed the projects, all the business cases for both the capital projects and the special projects, and we have a lot of really good safety-minded projects in there, as well as infrastructure projects. We prepared the operating budgets for the financial plan. We gone through and updated the sewer and water bylaws in November. We've consolidated all the other financial plans, the grants and aids, the permissive tax exemptions and things like that. We've had public engagements, and finally here we are with the financial plan bylaw. The financial plan bylaw is required to be completed and adopted by May 14th. The district is required to file on May 14th so that the province has it by the 15th. This is just a slide of what we've just said. The capital projects is $3.1 million. The special projects, those are projects that are not capital in nature but are significant in price tag, is $1.5 million. Most of the capital projects, 55% of those are funded through grants. The net impact to reserves and surplus is a decrease of $1.6 million. However, just to put that in perspective, our total reserves and surplus at the end of, estimated to be at the end of 2025 is $13.3 million. The of that, 9.6 is made up of reserves, $400,000 is made up of DCCs, and $3.3 million is made up of surplus. We'll pay down the small debt that we have of $35,000 this year in 2025, and as a result of all our projects and operating costs, we are required to raise $3.6 million. It is a 7.9% over 2024, sorry. It's $265,960 is what we're raising over and above 2024. The increases are largely due to increases in several contracts that we have in the financial plan. In the financial plan bylaw, you'll see a lot of our policies and objectives of the financial plan. Just to list a few, the policy is to have distribution of taxes are reasonably consistent between the years. The average of 25 to 29 is about 4.4%, which is not a bad target. We haven't quite achieved the consistency between all the years due to a lot of economic factors that are having pressures on our financial plans. Another policy is to implement projects that are outlined in our district infrastructure master plans, and we have a lot of those projects, such as the desludging project we have, the tender truck we just purchased that we just recently took pictures of. The generators are just completing this year. The siphon and some of the pre-work we're doing on reservoirs and things like that. Borrowing, we said that we should be limiting that on a basis for large infrastructure, and we have that in the future, not in 2025, but in 26 and 27. We have borrowing for the siphon replacement and the PRV valve. We're considering debt for that currently. We haven't committed to that yet. And the objective is to identify required projects in advance and save for them. And we have been saving for some of those projects in advance. This is very small when I'm looking at it this way. So the bright blue is the revenue sources. So part of the financial plan bylaw, you have to identify what the revenue sources are. That is the 2025 revenue sources. Is 39% of it will be funded through taxation, and 19% will be through sales of services, and government grants is 27%. So this is quite different than in 2024. If you just kind of scoop it over there. And basically because the government grants in 2024 was a lot higher than it is in 2025. A little bit of a shift. Last council meeting, council was presented with a few options and made a difficult decision to go forward with a consistent increase between residential and business classes. The adjustment was to increase the business ratio from 3.1 to 3.5, and the result is a small change in the burden allocation between the classes between residential and business classes. I just wanted to note here, out of the 160 municipalities in British Columbia, ranking them from 1 being the least to 160 being the most, Clearwater ranks 50 in municipal taxes. And that is West Vancouver is 160, and the community of Wells is the first one. What's our next steps? So our next steps for us, which I'm quite excited about, it's a long process, is adoption on May 6th, hopefully. Now, the tax rate bylaw is the next step. Given our schedule and the way the provincial government provides their tax rates, which impacts our tax rates for Vavenby, it's a complicated legislation piece. We have to wait till they provide that on April 30th. And then that creates a little bit of a problem. So we'll probably have to have a special in that week before the 15th. I have to have it filed by the 14th. So I've just put it as May 13th, but I'm not certain that's when it can be any time after the 6th, 24 hours after the 6th, if I'm bringing to get the adoption of the tax rate bylaw. And then we file on the 14th to be meeting our deadlines of the 15th. And we also have Sophie reporting, also as summary of financial information, is also reporting on June 30th, and your annual plan as well. We'll produce all our property tax notices and reports and communication, and then we will begin the process very soon again. Never ends. That's circular.
Part of the circle of life, taxes.
Circle of life,
taxes. And the financial cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to say I recommend that we pass the first, second, and third reading of the financial plan bylaw 323, 2025 to 2029.
Okay. Questions for Ms. Glassen on this? Comments? Thank you for the work on this. As always, it's a ginormous, that's the technical term, job. And also the thought that went into this process, especially with giving council a few options on balancing taxation between business and residential and things like that. Yeah, I'm good with this one. I had another thought and I've completely lost it. But anyways, comments from the rest of council, or does somebody wish to move first and second? Moved by Councillor Matheson. Do we have a seconder for first and second? Thank you, Councillor Frizzle. Any further discussion? District of Clearwater 2025 to 2029 5-year financial plan, bylaw number 323, 2025, a bylaw to adopt the 2025 to 2029 5-year financial plan, whereas section 165 of the community charter requires the council shall adopt a 5-year financial plan. Now therefore, the council of the District of Clearwater in open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as District of Clearwater bylaw number 323, 2025, 2025 to 2029 5-year financial plan. All those in favor? And then there is a second recommendation to move for third reading. Thank you, Councillor Herring. Seconded by Councillor Sim. District of Clearwater 2025 to 2029 5-year financial plan, bylaw number 323, 2025, a bylaw to adopt the 2025 to 2029 5-year financial plan. Whereas Section 165 of the Community Charter requires that council shall adopt a 5-year financial plan. Now therefore, the Council of the District of Clearwater, an open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as District of Clearwater Bylaw number 323, 2025, the 2025 to 2029 5-year financial plan. All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you for all your work on that. Moving on to item 18.1, you do have a correspondence response requested. This is in relation to correspondence between the District of Clearwater and the Chamber of Commerce. Questions, comments, and thoughts on this?
I
Councillor
would like to
Matheson.
respond on this. I have a statement I want to read out concerning this. I was called out in this particular letter, and I would just like to make an official response. So I'm responding to the Clearwater and District Chamber of Commerce's letter dated 26th of March 2025, written by and signed by the President of the Chamber, Carol Long, particularly the comments on councillor conduct in Section 115 of the Community Charter, which requires elected officials to consider the well-being and interests of the community. That is exactly what we have done as a council, and that is what I have done. Businesses came forward at a public meeting asking for help in dealing with an illegal operation. Ignoring them would have been a failure of leadership. I addressed the situation publicly because the public was demanding answers. In an absence of facts, misinformation and outright lies, rumors were starting to take hold. I take no great joy on going on social media, but the word had to be put out. I want to make it clear, at no time did I target the chamber in my role as a councillor. My focus was on public education, transparency, and showing leadership in the community. The claim by the Clearwater Chamber that I made accusations without evidence is simply false. Non-compliance is well documented by the RCMP, Interior Health, the District of Clearwater's bylaws, and their fire inspections, as well as multiple Supreme Court orders. Suggesting otherwise undermines the integrity of these agencies and misleads the public. The Chamber's reference to me concerning libel and slander to me reads like a veiled legal threat, and its repeated claims of neutrality ring hollow. In reality, it has chosen to attempt to legitimize an illegal operation despite overwhelming evidence. Remaining neutral in the face of non-compliance isn't leadership, it's complicity. I stand by my efforts to inform and protect the community, and I ask the council to support my motion to not renew our membership in the Clearwater and District Chamber of Commerce. That said, I'm open to working with the current chamber if it brings forward initiatives that offer real value, and I'm open to revisiting our membership should renewed leadership and responsible advocacy be demonstrated. Finally, I want to acknowledge the positive contributions the chamber has made in the past under previous leaderships, that legacy matters, but it cannot excuse actions by the current executive of the Clearwater Chamber of Commerce that undermine public trust. So I don't know if I have to make a motion on this or if it's simply replying with a letter. I think they've requested a reply.
I don't think there is the need for a motion. We have not at this point renewed our membership, so it would technically lapse, but I mean, I'm open if you wish to make a motion that we direct staff to inform the chamber.
I'd like to make a motion that we formalize it with a letter just stating that we will no longer be renewing our membership. It has lapsed, so it's just a formality.
Okay.
I think it's only fair to let them know where we are at with this.
Okay, further discussion on this, Councillor Herring?
I must have missed something. Was there ever a decision made that we would withdraw membership from the Chamber of Commerce by this table?
We have not at this point, but we have also not renewed our membership. A lot of other places. Okay, Councillor Sim?
So I'm just going to respond to the letter, and I just wondered if we could tie that back into what was presented with the strategic plan, which is the economic development. Point number 15, the district will explore the development to its preferred economic development model. Looks to me like conversations will be had, and that will be going out into a number of areas within the community. Which is fine. I'm unclear about what these letters are asking for, but if there's a cooperation, we seem to have a mechanism that is going to come forward from staff. Do I see Mr. Prine?
Go ahead, Mr. Prine.
And sorry, Mr. Mayor, we do have a motion that was moved. However, we should address that.
do not have a seconder yet, so yes, there's still discussion going on. And I didn't, the reason I'm asking for discussion right now, because that's appropriate time to ask staff any questions. If you as a counselor have a question of staff about how this should work, do that now, and then we'll get a seconder, and then that discussion is between council. So is there further questions to staff?
So just, I mean, it just seems that it's a request for you know, what we can do. And I think that this community, again, through the engagement that we've had, has looked towards different avenues to foster some economic development. So I think that if there's ways that that can go forward in different sectors, I know that Mr. Johnson, you've met with a number of business owners, and I think those conversations have been productive, and it can be moved forward. In terms of seconding it, I worked really hard to get the motion to have a membership to the Chamber of Commerce. So probably wouldn't work for me to suggest it to withdraw. I think that there's ways to work through things. I do feel, though, that our business community has responded really strongly about that there are costs to being compliant, and it's important. And I think it's an important message that is upheld. But for the letter itself, it just talks about the economic developments moving forward. Like, there seems to be various components to this letter. It's confusing to me, so I'll focus on their last paragraph, but I will not be endorsing that motion.
Councillor Frizzle.
I just want to know if there has been a response to to the response of the District of Clearwater letter.
That's the
Councillor.
That is the response.
Pardon?
That is the response there.
Yeah,
The letter in your council is a response to a letter sent by
watch the dates.
Mr. Johnson.
I read it wrong. I read it backwards then.
yeah.
Sorry, never mind.
No, I did too.
Okay. Further thoughts and comments, or a seconder? Councillor
I'll just
Matson.
make one comment. You know, reading the letter through, you know, at the beginning part with the cooperation and all that other stuff, it read really, really well. It was like two different people wrote it, though. I mean, they contradicted themselves between the first half and the second half. It's like two different brains were going at it. So, and I just, basically I see it as an attempt to silence the council and to tell us that that's not where our job is. And I think they made that loud and clear. So that's where I stand.
I'm going to second it from the chair. I can have the right to do that. My comments are going to be that chambers come and go. When I lived in the 100 Mile House there in the Caribou, I believe the 100 Mile Chamber dissolved and reformed, I think, 3 or 4 times in the 10 years that I had active knowledge of that area. I would like to see this chamber think about what it's doing here. What is its goal as an organization, as members of that organization? I have talked to multiple business members in this town who have requested or notified the chamber that they no longer wish to hold a membership and or be listed, and those updates have not happened to their listings on the chamber, and I will take their word that that was their request. Though I do note that a new director has been updated on the site, so they are updating the website, but not necessarily to the wishes of the people that have been or will be chamber members. I do feel at this point that I question the scope of representation that the current chamber has in this community. But as a former chamber vice president and president, which is what I did before I ran for council, I see absolute value in a chamber of commerce. I just don't know if it's this current version of the Chamber of Commerce. I would like to see some soul searching by that group and some rethink as to what is their role in this community. And I think it is broad representation of businesses in this community, but that requires buy-in from the business community. And I would also like to hear from the broader business community as to what they think. Having the one-off conversations that are not public, I have had many of those about the issues related to this. But there are the last time I remember seeing a report on business licenses, it was well over 200. There are less than 60, less than 70 currently on the Chamber website, and some of those businesses are duplicate businesses owned by the same people or out-of-town businesses. At one point, I think the Chamber of Commerce had 80% of the businesses listed as members in this town. We are a long way from that. So the Chamber has a voice in this town. I question what size of voice that truly is in representation to the business community. Any further comments? Councillor Sim.
So well said. And I agree. And I think in the past conversations that have been had around this table, there's been your idea that was put forward about a business improvement district. There certainly needs to be some revamping in how we hear from our businesses within the community. We talked about that in terms of taxes. We talked about that in terms of, you know, where the pulse is. So I think that what we have heard is that this council would like to hear more from the business community, and perhaps that is a direct line in a different way, which is fine. And I think everything else you said was true, is that there does need to be work to be done. And yeah, here's for sunnier days. Like, seriously, and I mean that, because we rely on so much for our businesses. You look at even the contributions that were made for sponsorship to the Sportsplex. Those were businesses. It's a vital part of our community.
Further thoughts of or comments? Sorry, lots of talking this meeting. If not, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the motion? Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. Do we have a motion, or did Councillor Matheson articulate one well enough to write one? Thank you, Mr. Prime.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Blackwell. I believe the resolution motion that Councillor Matheson made was that a letter be sent to the Chamber of Commerce informing them that the District of Clearwater would no longer be renewing their membership at this time.
And there was the option that at any time we can renew if we feel the situation changes. Yeah. Go ahead,
I would
Councillor.
like that included in the motion, that
The District of Clearwater will consider renewal of their membership at a future date. Okay. Are you okay with that amendment to the motion, Councillor Matheson? Thank you. Okay. Now you know the question. All those in favor? So Councillor Stratton, you had your hand up? Yes. Okay, so, and opposed? Okay, thank you, and that passes. Note the opposed, Councillor Sim and Councillor Herring. Thank you. There are two items of information only, hospital auxiliary and a local government workplace nasal naloxone pilot. And thank you to Director Zhao for getting the motion out there, the Dr. Helmicken Memorial Hospital Auxiliary Party out there on social media, so that it's a great event, and I hope lots of people attend. There are.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Sim. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor, and that passes. Okay, we're part of the lovely day where we are at comments from the public. Anybody from the public like to come up? I'd say identify yourself, Hazel Wadliger, but come on up to the mic and let us have a conversation.
Hi, I'm Hazel Wadliger, and I'm president of the Curling Club. And since this was on the agenda and you were asking some questions, we kind of just finished our season March 13th, and it's just been a busy time since then. You know, holidays got in the way, and yeah, things like that. But anyway, the Curling Club had a really good season this year. We added another day, so we curl 4 days a week. And we had 20 teams, which comes out to 80 people curling during the week. We also had the elementary school kids from Raft River come up 2 days, and the high school was there many days. And it takes a lot of volunteer time to have them there, which we're really happy to do. Some of them were very excited, and and really enjoyed it. So we're kind of looking at maybe hopefully being able to sponsor a junior team or after school team. And I know they used to do that in days gone by, but it just hasn't happened. It takes a lot of volunteers to look after that. So we're kind of looking at that. And this year we did have 3 bonspils. Actually, we had the Love Where You Live one that was sort of started between the district and the curling club, and our ladies bonspiel, and we held a skins tournament. And Barrier came up. We've been going to Barrier, and so we've been getting quite a few people coming up from Barrier, which is really quite nice. So we also had the challengers come, and they love to come, and they really enjoy it. That's something that they can do and really seem to enjoy it. So we've had a really good year. We've had good relationship with the staff, and we participated in an ice technician course, which was really helping our side as well as the ice makers, because as most of us know, curling ice and hockey ice is not the same. And with the technician course, they really learn how to prepare the curling ice properly. And so it helps everybody. And it really helped some of our members to understand too how things are done. So we hope to continue that, and anybody new that is coming on staff, we really encourage that they take the ice technician course, and the curling club is always willing to help pay for that as well. So that was the curling club. And as far as the dog park, I'm from Rotary, and Lindsay's here, but it was talked about. But I think once we get some costs from the city, we'll be able to maybe have a committee that we can go out and get some. There's lots of people that seem like they want to help with fundraising because they love their dogs. So I think that's where that will be, and it'll take a bit of time for that. And on the Chamber of Commerce, I just wanted to say that one of the valuable things that the Chamber does for small business is its ability to get group and health insurance and pension programs that small businesses cannot get anywhere else. And so our company has taken advantage of that and been a member for many years. We don't insure through the Chamber of Commerce anymore, but we did for many years. And I'm hoping that the Chamber does continue with that, being able to get themselves on track and keep that program going, because it's very important for small business. So I think that's it.
Any questions for Ms. Walker? Go ahead.
Yes.
Councillor Brandt.
Your registration this year, did that go up?
Oh yeah,
as
quite a bit.
opposed to other years?
Yeah,
Yes.
we have a Monday night league that was full, and that's for new people that come, and it's kind of nice because it's a forehand, and then they have time to go up and drink beer if they want. The other thing we did this year too is people in Clearwater are finding that the lounge area is a good place to have like birthday parties, or teachers have had their Christmas potluck dinner there. They can curl and they can come up and have a potluck, and we open the bar for them, and that's been really nice this year for people to take advantage of that, because there's not a lot of places that you can go do that it's affordable anymore for small groups. So yeah.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a struggle with, Ski Hill is great for
Yeah.
a lot of those things, but it's a large space, and if there's only 10 or 12 of you,
Yeah.
that's awesome that you're
Yeah.
creating those accesses. Councillor Bratton.
Yes.
I think it's fantastic. I love to see the curling club thrive, and as all the groups at the arena. Your ice technician, or your person that took the ice technician course, is that person going to be around next year, or do we need to look at maybe helping somebody look at that, or
Well,
are they moving away?
we had 2 people take the ice technician course.
I see.
And I know that one of the workers at the Sportsplex was away that weekend, so Jeremy could not take it, and I'm hoping that if he's still there that he can. We're always hoping to send somebody, so yeah.
Okay.
No.
And I would love feedback on the fees.
I'm sorry?
I would love feedback on the fees.
On the fees.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the fees have gone up, as we know.
Yeah.
But, you know, I know that things always go up, and as a matter of fact, that's no surprise. I was a bit surprised that they went up so much at one time, and I was hoping that they would be gradual. I think we, you know, as a curling club, we certainly can weather that because, you know, we do have the benefit of the bar, but I am concerned about, say, like the skating club and stuff like that. But we all know costs go up. But I was hoping that maybe they would go up gradually more than 25% at 1 year. But if that's the way it is, it's the way it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But we'll still be there curling in the fall.
Further questions or comments? Thank you for coming up and telling us what's going on.
Yeah, I'll get a report to Roger, written one,
You should run for council. You got a lot going on.
before
saying.
I get into the garden.
Yeah. Any further comments or questions from the public? Yeah, come up and state your name.
Hi, I'm Terry Campbell, and I think most of you here know me. I just wanted to say thank you so much for seeing some positive movement on the dog park. Being a healthcare professional in this community, a lot of us do have animals, and that's how we regenerate ourselves after our shifts. So if you want to encourage people like myself to live in this community, it's a very positive step for us.
Thank you for
And
that.
I would also like to say I actually do not live in the CID area. So I would like to see, I'm hoping, I've already given my name to Hazel, that maybe we can look into TNRD funding and that kind of stuff too, to actually help out as far as getting this park going for everybody in the community.
Oh, so adding TNRD funding to the pot for this
I'm
park?
hoping that'll be something in the future. I do think that because, you know, it's people from Birch Island and Vavenby are going to be accessing this park too, not just CID. So I think that would be a good avenue for us to look at for funding.
I'm going to let Council Sim comment on
I
this one.
love that idea. I think that's terrific. I automatically see a dog water park. Don't you? Yeah.
I have a golden retriever and he would love that. So yes.
I love how this,
Yeah.
and look, the director's with us today.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just think this is super.
You know, and come to think of that, I mean, one of the concerns that they did bring up is the proximity to the splash park, and that we may have issues with health if we do not create a separate water area for dogs. And there's always been a challenge because for the District of Clearwater, there is so little space accessible on Dutch Lake for those dogs, and there's always been a challenge with that. And then you have a river, which, you know, has swift moving water. So the addition of maybe a TNRD funded splash area for dogs within the area sounds really
Look
fantastic.
how well the Sportsplex is doing because of our partnership at times.
I know.
Just an economic driver
the 40-60
all over
split
the
is
place.
awesome. So thank you for your comments. Any further comments or questions? And thank you for.
I just wanted to say, just one more comment too. I do think the area you're looking at is an awesome area for that. Being a dog owner, to me, that's the logical place to have it. So that if you go to Barrier, right, with SIMP resources now, having that right off the highway, if you want people to stop in this town, a lot of people with kids and dogs, if it's right next door, they will stop and they will shop, and you will actually improve your other businesses with that too. So.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Adults can stand in the parking lot and look in both directions to see who they have to get out of trouble first. So yes, and not saying that you should leave either one attended. Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Quick question. Sorry, go ahead.
But does the Ministry of Transportation have signs that say dog park ahead or whatever?
I'm quite sure we can convince them to make one.
Yeah, I just thought of
Public
Director
advisory.
On that note, I do want to share for the record, I have reached out to Mr. Johnson and Mayor Blackwell, copying my TNRD CAO, Mr. Hiltbrand, that I would be, wholeheartedly supporting any sort of funding model that incorporates Area A into it. And again, just showing my appreciation, and also perhaps for the record, the appreciation for the agility of municipal government versus a regional district. I share staff between 10 electoral areas and municipal members, so you are much more agile to get things like this going. I understand that Area A has had a desire for dog parks, but as I mentioned earlier, the Parks and Trails strategy, we needed to commit to a strategy first so that it's, a transparent process where resources are divided between the electoral areas. I can't just tell staff that, hey, give me a dog park right now, Area A needs it. Well, you guys seem to, Mr. Johnson seems to be very
But we can tell the TNRD that we need a splash park. Just letting
That-
you know from
yep,
this.
by all means,
I shouldn't really be saying that as a TNRD director, but the rest of council can. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, so I look forward to this jointly, funded project, and thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the public? Sorry, Mr. Prime.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Just one online comment, not to, drag the point out, from Ashley Sorensen, Dutch Lake Road. Yes for dog park. That was
Okay, yes. And to let Ms. Sorensen know online, I will do some office hours next week so I can catch up with her because she has been requesting a phone conference. She is out of, we have not been able to make that work at this point. Okay, so if there are no more questions from the public, there is a need to move into in camera. There's a recommendation the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 1 of the community charter to discuss matters relating to C, labor relations or other employee relations. Can I get a mover and a seconder on that? Moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by Councillor Bratton, or the other way around. All those in favor? Thank you. We will take a 10-minute recess to 4:10. Thank you.